driven type of leader. Ah, that's so funny. I was just thinking that, Jen. I
Sorry.
was, that's okay. I was just thinking, oh, I wonder if she is recording this and I missed it. Um, so yeah, we are bred as leaders and as business owners. What we have to do is be more tactic driven, which truly is the more masculine energy of logistics, execution, the to-do lists, analytical things. And that is where we really fall short of being able to tap in to the truth, into our values, why we started this. We lose sight of our purpose. And that in and of itself, we've constantly seen what we're dealing with, to Jen's point, is the burnout, is communication, where our decision making, either we're struggling with decision fatigue, which I've been there myself many times, or we have reactive decision making. And that creates a culture, not only within ourselves, but with our team that can feel really unstable and or unsafe. Jen, what are your thoughts on what I'm saying?
Yeah, so totally agree with everything. And I think there's this over reliance on the tactics, which can allow us to start to feel that misalignment in the work that we're doing. And so, something that I think is really important and to kind of kick us off is, do we know what our values are? Do we know what's important to us? How do we make sure that they are implemented and part of our decision making every day in the work that we do? And so when we're not focusing on that, when we're not in alignment with that, things get really hard for us. We feel that misalignment coming in. We think that these quick fixes, oh, I just need to manage my time a little bit better, or I have this new system that's going to manage everything. This is all great, but when you're getting away from the core values of why you're doing what you're doing, none of these fixes, none of this productivity, no time management are going to solve the underlying points of that, the underlying issues of that.
And your team feels it.
Mhm.
Your team feels that. It's a vibe, it's an energy that we're giving off, right? Tactics are external, whereas truth is more internal. And our internal world creates our outer world, our external world. So if we're not feeling in alignment, if we are living in a space of almost falsehood, where we're constantly reacting or we're constantly not showing up the best version because we're staying really attached to certain outcomes, the team feels that. We feel that. And then everybody starts to become more reactive, right? Maybe in the short term, tactics, great. They create excellent results. However, we can't sustain that. They can't sustain the trust and the loyalty and the long-term performance. I mean, none of us here, as a leader, as a business owner, it doesn't matter where you are. I already know and I feel confident to say you didn't get into your business. You're not creating something from scratch. You don't love leadership because you want to fail at it, because you want to only see short-term results, because you recognize somewhere something is going on where you may have tapped out of that truth and you may feel misaligned with your core values. And so, truth be told, that's why we wanted to do this, because we know that people feel that way. We've felt that way. And we know how important it is to tap back into your truth and integrate both of those.
And some people, aren't sure where they're at. So a quick like self-assessment question might be like, where am I leading from right now? Am I leading from a place of being clear? Am I leading from a place of joy? Am I leading from a place of values? Or am I leading from a place of urgency? Am I leading from a place of fear, pressure? What are those words that come up when you ask yourself that question? And so that might be just like a quick, self-assessment for yourself. Where am I leading from right now? And you know
Mhm.
what? I think the important thing to know is that can change too. Something
Yep.
can happen in your life that makes you feel like, oh, I'm no longer in alignment. What's kind of going on for me? What is happening? Do I need to, circle back to something that I've been working on? Do I need, so that check in with yourself of where am I at today is such an important question to ask yourself because that can help you determine, am I in alignment? Am I operating? Am I leading from the place that I want to be leading from?
Absolutely. And that really takes yes, Lauren, I think that's a great sidebar too, is asking your team, self being self-aware, but also having that relational management from an emotional intelligence standpoint to check in with your team. There's times if we feel out of alignment, like I said before, they feel it too. So having that dialogue with your team to how are we all feeling today?
Mhm.
How are we all feeling? How do you feel like I am showing up for you? How do you like to be led?
Mhm.
I often ask my clients when they enroll in a coaching program with me, how do you like to be coached? Because we're all different. We all learn differently. We all hear things differently, right? So that perception, we don't see the world the way that it is. We see the world the way that we are. And the more that we know as leaders, how others perceive leadership, values, what are their values, and we're having those consistent conversations, the more likely, right, we'll be able to lead from truth rather than just tactics. That's where we can really merge the two and have the integration of both. So, another point that I wanted to also add is the noise that happens, that hustle and bustle, that quick start energy when we're not tapping into truth, how loud the noise can be. And Jen, can you speak to that from your perspective?
Yeah, we were just chatting before we let everyone in just about some things that were going on in our lives this morning. And we're both operating households. We're both operating businesses. We're both like, in the scheduling and all of this. And we both experienced something that could have completely dysregulated our systems today.
Yes.
And we knew, so the work that we do, we know we need that opportunity to gain some emotional regulation before we get on a call like this. And so when we think about the noise of everything going on around us, it could be the world, it could be your household, it could be, team members, it could be your neighbor. Like there is so much that is out of our control,
Mhm.
and we get to decide, what are we going to do with that? How are we going to respond? Jenna has mentioned the reaction word. I like to incorporate reactions versus responses. I'm
Mhm.
going to allow myself the space and energy to bring myself down a little bit. My house was pretty chaotic this morning. I have three kids, two 2-year olds and an 8-month old. Lots of appointments this morning. We got a little all over the place. I knew that I had to be in my office by 11 o'clock today in order to just like bring that energy down a little bit. I was operating out of pure chaotic energy this morning, and I hope that that is not coming off in this call today, because I also know that if I would have jumped right on this call, I would have not allowed myself the time or the emotional ability to regulate myself and show up how I wanted to show up. And Jenna had a similar situation this morning where, she was feeling all the feels, had to let that out in order to regulate herself and show up today. And so I think that, there is going to be outside noise. There's going to be outside pressures. There's going to be fear. There's going to be things that are out of our control. And we get to decide how we're going to show up and what we get to respond to that with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We definitely And this is exactly why we gave ourselves 30 minutes prior to come on, to not just from a logistical standpoint, not just from a tactical standpoint. Is everything set up? Can you see me okay? How's the lighting? What's going on? We did that. And then we went to truth. Okay, now that we're squared away, how we feeling? We both literally took big deep breaths and was like, woosah, right? So it gave us an opportunity to become coherent together, to say what's going on for you, what's going on for me. Everything's figured out. Wait, we the law of change states everything's constantly changing. The only thing that we can guarantee is that things will change. But there's three energy dynamics to change. The first is if we're forced to change, and that can often lead to a crisis, right? Where we are completely dysregulated. The second would be chance. If we just leave things up to chance and fate and luck, like by happenstance, this occurred. Oh, I got lucky. This big thing just fell into my lap. I wasn't really deserving of it. It just happened, right? Or choice, to Jen's point. Everything is a choice. Every moment of every day, we are making choices. If we are choosing to do what may feel difficult at first, then, oh, got it. I didn't see that. I was like, oh, screen change. But of choice, we feel more powerful making the conscious choice to do what may appear to be the hard thing first, but ultimately makes our life easy in the end. And that's because we got to decide. We weren't forced to do it. We didn't leave it up to fate. We made the conscious choice to come on together, get squared away, do our woo-saw, take some deep breaths, and then we were good to go and excited. And then we were like, okay, where's everybody? We're ready to go, right?
And part of that too is realigning with what is important to us,
Yeah.
realigning with those values. And so when we talk about showing up in a capacity where we feel calm and energetic and we want to provide education, those are part of our values. That's part of who we are, and it's part of the work that we do, and it's what we want people to see when we show up. We don't
Right.
want to bring that chaotic energy. We don't want to look like we're, operating from a place of fear or urgency. We want to show up intentional. And so our ability to regulate ourselves and calm our own nervous systems and decide, how am I going to show up today? And I love Lauren's comment about, kind of going back to your team if you have a team, and also, they know when you're out of alignment. If you show up a certain way every day, and one day you show up and you're like, operating out of chaos or fear or urgency, they are going to likely know that. And so
Right.
just by putting it out there, like, you're not hiding anything. You're not, they know when you're operating from a place of misalignment. And so just to call it out, like, hey, what's the dynamic like today? With some of the teams that I work with, we do like a 10-15 minute like morning check-in. What's the pulse of the day? How are people feeling? What do people need from us? We used to do at a previous place I worked with, just a very quick, how's everybody feeling today? We would use the good old feeling wheel of, identifying what you're feeling today. We'd have a goal, and we'd also say, what do we need from our team? What do we need from somebody else? Is there something that someone can help me with to make sure that, I have everything I need? And it would always be operating out of place of feelings or thoughts or thinking. It would never be a tactical, I need you to do this. And so just that operating from a place of connection is part of, like, if these are my values, how am I showing these?
Absolutely. I love what you just said. And the big piece that I would say is, does everybody know, understand what it looks like, feels like when we're not regulated, when our nervous system is dysregulated? Because I think that in and of itself especially when we're living in a place of hustle and performance. And if I don't do this, my business is going to fail. And if I don't show up at, all the thing, nobody's going to come. If I'm not asking and if I'm not doing this, but that in and of itself is so performance driven that we lose sight of our truth and our purpose. And that dysregulates us in and of itself. So I think that's really important is what does it look like when you have a dysregulated nervous system? And how can you get back to feeling regulated so that you can tap into your values? So that you can recognize that shift of what does it look like when I lead from values instead of pressure? It's much more stabilizing. My decisions feel so much more clear. I'm so much more confident, right? I'm responding instead of reacting, and I'm shifting that leadership from control to clarity and then from force to influence. When we shift that from control to clarity, when we shift from a place of force to influence, we invite other people to do the same. We allow other people to feel empowered and want to align with us. We're giving off an energy of inviting rather than pushing. And this applies whether you're a leader of a company, a C-suite, or if you're a business owner. You want to invite people to feel safe. But if you're not feeling safe, whether it's subconscious or conscious, if you're not giving off that energy, Jen said, they're going to pick up on it. Your team knows. And we've all been there because we know when our leaders, when our colleagues, we know when somebody's feeling some type of way. Most of us are pretty clear and balanced in an external empathy. Anybody else, you walk in a room and you look at your significant other or your best friend, you're like, uh-oh, what's up? You good? Right? What's going on? And I feel confident. Most of us in this room as leaders and we're fixers. We wanna help. So we want to slow down to speed up and make sure that we're not jumping too quickly to fixing that issue. That we're meeting people where they are, and that also allows ourselves to meet us where we are. To own what's going on. Oh, I'm totally out of whack right now. And if I'm showing up out of whack, I know I can't. It's not possible. I want everybody to write this down because this is so important. You cannot prove worth and provide value at the same time. We can't do it. We cannot prove worth and provide value at the same time. Proving worth is only focusing on the tactical side of leadership. Providing value allows us to tap into our truth and into our values. Jen, I see you noodling. You want to say something? Go, girl.
Well, I just love all of that because I think that that's so good and it brought up so many things that I'm like super excited about. One is like that energy, like you were talking about, like the energy that people are giving off. Like that's how you attract your circle. That's how you attract your people. Like that energy you're giving off, like you want that in return. So love that. And I just wanted to throw that in there. But when we're talking about like knowing when we're not in alignment, there is a great therapy book. Don't read it if you are not a therapist or a social worker or whatever. It is called The Body Keeps the Score. It is so hard to get through, but it is such a good book. But it
Yeah.
talks about how our body is telling us when things are not right. It is our job to listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes our body might be telling us something like, oh, I've had indigestion for 3 weeks now. It's probably not something you ate 3 weeks ago. There might be something else going on. And
Yeah.
so listening to our body, the moment that our body is giving us those cues that something is wrong, we need to address it. We need that to bring us some type of awareness that like, ooh, something might be going on. Let me dig a little bit deeper into this. Let me figure out where that's coming from and why, so that I can make the choice to change it. And I
Right.
think a lot of us ignore those signs. We ignore that indigestion that lasts for 3 weeks or that headache that never goes away. We say, "Oh, I'm just busy. I'm in this hustle culture. Like I just have to get this done and maybe my headache will go away." No, that's going to lead you to that burnout. It's going to lead you to decision fatigue. It's going to lead you to continuing to operate under pressure, urgency. Like listen to our body and don't ignore it. So I'm so glad you brought that up because it's so important, because you're right. A lot of us don't know, might not know when we're not in alignment, but our body is usually telling us when that is happening. It is
Mhm.
our job to listen to it.
Yeah. And as a leader, people are going to do what you do. You want to be a leader that people follow, a servant leader, a steward leader, somebody that follows somebody, another person, because they support them in self-actualizing. Because not only do they make you feel really great, but they teach you how you want to be. So if you're stopping in the middle of, if you feel triggered, we all know when we feel triggered. Instead of ignoring it just to get through, say, I'm going to take a 2 minute recess. I'm going to take a 2 minute break. I'm just checking in with my body. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I need a glass of water. I need to move. I need to get up and stretch, right? Just asking yourself, what does my body and my mind need right now so that I feel the best version of me in this moment, in the here and now? So at the end of the day, that's all that matters. That's all that we have is right now. Most of our stress and anxiety and overwhelm that we experience in any given day is from something that either happened yesterday or something that's going to happen that is making us feel anxious or nervous about, right? Rarely in the here and now, in time and space, are we feeling, is our lower self getting triggered, right? Earlier, when Jen and I were talking and we both had all the noise, that had nothing to do with the moment. It was with all the appointments that happened that were outside of her control that landed in her lap. It was the drama of a youth program. It had absolutely nothing to do with what was going on in the here and now, right? And so once we can get really present, which is another really, really, really important piece to this, when we're looking at how do we shift leading from our values, leading from our purpose, out of pressure, it's really getting present. And I'm just reading really quickly. I will get to that. But yes, if Jen, if you want to speak to that, yes, it comes down to human-centered thinking for sure. People are assets. That's the number one principle. Lydia said something really great that, you don't lead from metrics, you lead from people. And if we're stressing, if ourselves, and if we're leading from a place of unaware, then of course that emulates throughout. But why are you in a leadership spot? Well, go ahead, Jen. Speak to it. I see.
Yeah, I mean, then you need somebody to help you. You shouldn't like, but I think that that comes back to values. Like, so when you like, let's say you are looking for a new career or you're entering into a new space in your life or career, when we know what our values are, that's what we look for in leaders. That's what we look for in the companies that we're, going out and seeking. I work with this gentleman that has been, in the process of, I want a new job. This job that I have hasn't they don't align with what's important with me. They don't align with, the values that I have. Okay, so this is like a school district, but so
Mhm.
sometimes we're not going to change that. We're not going to be able to change all of the New York State education system.
Yeah.
So he's in the process of looking. Something that we've been working very hard on is how do you find a career, a job, a leader that aligns with what's important to you? And when you know yourself well enough to know what you're looking for, it's easier to spot in companies, in organizations, like, does this align with what's important to me? If I were out looking for a job, I'd be asking those questions. Like, what are the core values? How do you implement these? How, what do these dynamics look like? And so I do think that there is, like, you know, and I've worked with some leaders as well that are like, I feel like I'm being interviewed in interviews. And I'm like, good. Like, you should. So I think that, because there can be that disconnect. You can have a super, well, I guess, can you have a super healthy team if you don't have that leadership that's stable and operating from a place of values? Like, maybe not.
Yeah, very true. And but I will also say to that question, why, most leaders don't get in a leadership position because they hate people. They We originally love leadership and love people, but what happens is we get stuck in the tactical side of it. We get stuck in the logistics. If we're in a company, if we're a CEO or COO, CFO, we have had to do a series of things, or a lot of my financial advisors, they love people. They love what they do. When they get in that leadership position, there's metrics that they have to hit. And so that can overtake everything else. Another reason why we wanted to bring this webinar to light was because we recognize each of us, no matter what type of leadership we're in, we're all amazing people. And the success that we're seeking is also truly and deeply seeking us. We're just have the human condition and we get lost sometimes. We get lost in all of the different roles that we play. We forget to take off hats. We forget how powerful it can be when we live from a place of coherence and integration. And so here's your friendly reminder that you are an incredible leader of your life, of your team, of your business, of your legacy. And here's why it's so important to tap into your values. Here's why it's so important to build a team and a legacy that is in full alignment with what you also believe to be true, with what you want to create. Because leading from a place of reaction and logistics, it'll get you really great short-term results. But long-term, you live from a place of chaos and dysregulation, right?
I love that because I think, like, when we first started this, we talked about some of the chaos and the noise that was going on for us individually.
Mhm.
And I think reminding ourselves that we can have bad days also. And
Yeah.
there are days that we may feel out of alignment, and that's okay. But we decide, I was just working with a team, and she's like, I had a woman who said, I just had the worst night. I didn't sleep at all. I have a migraine, like, I'm not feeling well. I went to work because I had a lot that I needed to do, but I shut my door because I didn't want to give off that energy that I knew that I had. I was angry, I was miserable, like, and I just shut my door and I got what I needed to get done, and I went home. But I
Mhm.
knew myself enough to know, like, I'm not in the mood to socialize. I'm not in the mood to chat about new projects. I'm not. So again, going back to, like, we are allowed to have bad days. We're allowed to hear the noise every now and then. What are we going to do with it?
Yeah. And communicating that, right? So what happens when we live from a values aligned space is it has such an incredible positive impact on our communication because we can be more transparent and grounded and we can connect more, right? Speaking just from true clarity and intention rather than defensiveness, rather than pressure, right? And then again, that invites your team to do the same thing. Oh, Jenna was really transparent that she didn't get a great night's sleep. So she's going to close her door, not because she's not open and willing to hang out, but because she's going to get done what she's got to get done. And then she's probably going to go home, right? It alleviates that misunderstanding
Mhm.
that can so often happen when we're not communicating and when misunderstandings totally decrease when communication is really anchored in those shared values and in those shared principles. Your whole culture becomes a place of support, right? Even from an accountability perspective. Accountability can be shared and not forced, not something that we're afraid of. Oh my gosh, somebody's supposed to hold me accountable and I didn't do it because of X, Y, and Z. Right? It creates all that tension. It's like, no, no, we can share this space. Talk to me. What's going on? Where are we leading from excuses versus where are we leading from real truth and honesty? Creating that psychological safety for everybody, which I know is a incredible word that it's been a buzzword lately, but it's still real. It's still very real. So we want to create that culture that's self-regulating as well, that invites everybody to do the same and be that leader that shows up for themselves first. If you're not showing up for you, you cannot show up for other people and still have a successful, sustainable, scalable business and life and team.
I love being a therapist, the buzzword of psychological safety. I love it. It's like, it's so important. But I think that's a perfect example of the clear communication, clear expectation. So when we are emotionally regulated, we can allow those things to kind of come out. We can allow for communication to be healthy. We can respond rather than react. We can
Mhm.
let people know expectations very clearly. That creates that psychological safety that builds trust. And
Mhm.
so when we work on those things, when we work on creating this environment where people feel safe to say, hey, I'm having a bad day. I'm going to close my door. I'm still here. I'm still present, but I'm just, I need a little space today. Like when you have an environment that's allowed and respected, like that builds so much trust within the team. And we
Mm.
know that it's okay to say those things. And we know it's okay to have bad days.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just gonna hop over to the chat really quick. Yes, Kristen, I completely agree. Learning your team and your colleagues, learn about them so that you can recognize when they're out of alignment. And then to Amy's point, okay, so a good approach when someone that you're working with is out of alignment, how do you address it without offending them? And that is it's such a great question.
It's a very good
So
question.
I want to be really transparent. You can't. Eesh, right? That's harsh. We can't control how somebody perceives our truth, just how we deliver it. And that is so, so important. So I'm going to say it again. We cannot perceive how somebody is going to, how they perceive our truth, just how we deliver it. So a good way, and I share this with all of my clients, is I teach them the art of carefrontation. So not confrontation, but carefrontation. And that looks like directly, transparently, authentically, and most importantly, lovingly telling them the truth, your truth, and or the truth about a situation. Again, recognizing I have absolutely no control what they're going to do with it. Some are going to get really defensive. Some are going to internally, a lot of my feminine energy folks, and this is nothing to do with gender, so male or female, a lot of my feminine energy, they may shrink down, ruminate, quiet, and run from it. Somebody who leans into the masculine energy, they may project and become super defensive, right? We don't have any control. So what we do is we lead with intention. What I don't want to do is upset you in any way. What I do want to do is recognize I'm I'm feeling there's some misalignment going on. Do you feel that too? Most of the time, people will say, yeah, I feel some type of way. If they don't, if they say, no, I don't know what you're talking about, then you have an opportunity to say, okay, well, my intention here is just to be really clear and authentic with you. I feel like something's going on. Here's what I'm witnessing. Here's what I'm experiencing.
Here's what I'm seeing. Yes.
Here's what I'm seeing,
Yes.
right? And that opens up the door for a really honest, open, loving conversation. But it's a tough one. It is a tough conversation. It's a crucial conversation. But when we do it from a place of love and not love as, ooh, I love you, right? But more a place of leaving others valuable experiences. LOVE, leaving others valuable experiences. If we're doing it from a place of a way of being, we're inviting them to join us, having no idea if they're going to take the invitation or throw it back in our face, right? Jen, do you want to speak to anything I'm saying?
Yeah, so I love all of that. Spot on. And I think I'll just kind of piggyback off of the emotional regulation piece is
Yeah.
we are in charge of our own emotional regulation. We are in charge of how we deliver that message. And those are some great kind of ideas for how to deliver that. We have enough on our plate of emotionally regulating ourselves. We are
Yeah.
not in charge of how somebody else does that emotional regulation. And so we cannot control how they're going to take that. That is, you know, this is going to sound a little harsh, but it is a them thing. Like they need to figure that out for themselves. If they
Mhm.
didn't like the way that they feel or responded, that's not up to you to make better. It's
Right.
up to
It's not your
us. Yes.
responsibility.
It is not our responsibility to make it easier for them. It's up to us to deliver in a way that feels aligned with our values, to be respectful, to identify what we see that, hey, I have a feeling like something's going on. Here's what I've been noticing. We deliver with facts, we deliver with that caring aspect of of the love piece of that, but we are not in charge of how they respond, and that is too much for us to put on our shoulders. Again, we have enough on our plate to deal with our own emotional regulation. We can't do that for others.
Yeah. And as we continue to build out a team and our leadership style, our folks will know that. Our team and our colleagues will know, right, how we show up and how we respond and what we take ownership for. And if we're very transparent with them and say, I only take ownership for how I show up. And I'm very open. I'll say the same thing. And I'm inviting you to do the same.
Mhm.
I'm a big component of taking ownership. I teach my kids the same thing. Listen, if you screw up, just own it. You're a human being. You're going to screw up all the time. I do. As long as you own it, can you then focus on how can we collaborate and how can we come together to come up with more of that solution focused rather than just the issue at hand. We'll constantly be going like this. And that leads to burnout. That leads to exhaustion. That leads to the consistent misalignment. He said, she said stuff that really just completely wears us out. Ain't nobody got time for that. Now, these are really, really great questions. Okay, so I want to honor our time together. Is there any other questions? Jen, are you cool if we kind of open up
Yes.
the floor for the
Yep. Let's
last
open up the floor.
9 minutes? Okay. And if there's not a question, that's totally fine. A comment, something that dropped in for you that you want to share? Yeah, Jess.
Going back to when you said you cannot prove worth and provide value at the same time,
Mhm.
I missed what you did. I know value is equaling truth. What I think I have a different way of looking at the word worth right now. So if
Okay,
you could go back to what prove worth is in this quote setting,
sure.
it's just not resonating with me right now.
Okay. Great question. Thank you. So worth is subjective, right? So as a business owner and as a leader, we are put in this position where we constantly feel like we have to prove ourselves, prove that we got here for a reason, prove that our offer is worthy enough for somebody else to buy. Does that make sense?
Say it again.
Okay.
This is being
So,
recorded, so I guess I can go back.
yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. I have no issue saying this. So, as a leader, right, let's say that we're in a corporation. We're constantly put in a position where we have to prove we're good enough. That's why we got in that position. That's why we're the CEO. That's why we're the CFO. That's why we're the president or the vice president of the company. So maybe that feels like subconsciously or consciously, we always have to have the answers. We always have to show up a certain way. We always have to be the smartest person in the room. Where I humbly submit, I love when somebody asks me a question and I'm like, I have no idea. Not a dang clue, but I'm going to find out, right? So let's say the business owner, we're constantly having to prove so that our business succeeds, so that we don't fail out our offer. I had a conversation, an enrollment conversation with a gentleman just the other day, and he wanted to know essentially how much money I make and wanted to know how much revenue that I am bringing in. And I had an opportunity, right? And look, I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I had an opportunity to say, well, I bring in this much because I could have, my lower self wanted to prove that I was worthy enough for him to hire me, that I make enough money, that I bring enough people into my offer, that he should too. Or I'm just going to provide value. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper. And I said, that's an interesting question. Tell me more about why that's so important to you. And I got him talking, and so that I was able to provide him more value. Because I know that truthfully, dollars follow value. The more value you provide in the market, the more dollars will come back to you, the more profit comes back to you. So if I am so obsessed with what I do and I feel so clear and so good about my value proposition and what I bring to the world, and I want to share that with everybody, there's more than enough people who are going to say, wait a second, she's cool. Like, I want to align with her. Like, essentially, that's what Jen and I did. We were like, wow, you're really cool. Like, I love what you're doing. Oh, I love what you're doing. Let's do something together. Now, in this case, there was no, essentially, there's no like money exchange here. There's no currency exchange, but there's really no different. I didn't have to prove to Jen how cool and great I was. Do a webinar with me. Let me feel like I need to. No, we just had a genuine conversation, provided value, enough value for each other that we were like, oh, let's totally collaborate. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah. So when you were talking about that, something that came to my mind was when we were talking about worth was like, how do I prove that I'm the best?
Yeah.
Like, and that was what, like, I, as a therapist, like, I look young. I'm in my mid 40s. My clients don't know that. And so sometimes they'll say, how old are you? And
Hmm.
I think, or how long have you been doing this as a way to get to know, like, are you worthy of? And so, but I know where Jesse, I feel like I know where you're coming from when you think about that word worthy. Is like, it's a little bit different than like, we're talking about the tactical side. We're talking about the money side. We're talking about like proving ourselves. And I think you're looking at it from that feminine energy approach of am I worthy to myself? Am I worth, like, what am I giving off? So there's like, so, and I like how Jenna, you said like there's a different perception of that. And so like and honestly, like I would go back to the masculine feminine version of like what that word means to you. And I think we're talking more in the masculine side of things.
Yeah. Yeah. Not an internal worthiness, but from a leadership and business owner, entrepreneur worthiness, the energy that we're projecting from a leadership standpoint.
Great question.
Awesome. Yeah.
Other questions, comments?
You're welcome, Lydia. Thanks for coming.
I'm gonna put our um share the screen one more time.
Yeah. As we close out, I just want to thank everybody for taking this time with us today. I know it is a lunch hour. I'm so honored that you're here, and that you chose to spend this time with us. We hope that you received a lot of value. That is our goal, is just to share some things that really light us up
Mhm.
and share that with the world. So go ahead, Jen. If you want to say your
Yep. Yep. And then there's just some reflection questions that you can take away and either kind of think on, journal on, just kind of some themes that are important for us to be aware of when we think about values aligned leadership. One place you know you need to realign, one small shift you can make, and a potential boundary to implement to ensure that you're protecting that space to feel aligned. So, just some reflection questions to take with you. And if you have any questions, thoughts, ideas, concerns, this is a way to get in touch with both of us. We will send out the recording, and we're also going to just make sure you guys have our contact information. If there's anything we can help you with or support you with, we have considered doing additional webinars together. We were going to kind of see how it went, and so if you have an idea for a webinar that would be aligned with kind of the feel that you got from us today, we'd love to hear what your thoughts are and what you would like to see in the future. Um, and that's all we have for you.
and we thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. All
Bye, everyone.
Bye. All right. Woohoo!
Hey, do you want to end the recording?
Yes, I do.